Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today we are on day 15 of Acrylic April. We're going to be painting this loose, fast, and friendly wave. I always think it's fun to do ocean paintings and aquatic paintings. There are a lot of great colors that I love, and I think waves have a lot of movement and texture that are fun to get into. I know they can be intimidating, but we're really going to go over the process. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hey guys.
He's going to track me with all the cameras, catch your questions, work with the moderators to make sure you have a really great viewing experience. And if you look down in the description below, there's a link to our website. Now, if you want to know where any of our resources are for past events or upcoming events, those are generally housed on the website. If you go to the calendar and click the picture, it'll take you to the web page where all of those are. And they're there as a downloadable PDF. So that should help you. And then generally after the show, and if I can get them ahead, but right now after the show, I tend to do some prep videos that will help you, including how to grid, which will help you draw, and some value studies to get you in the sense of how this painting might be constructed without the complications of color. I'm pumped for today and ready to just jump on in.
All right.
Okay. Boom. I feel like that was like a really good intro. Just going to say.
All right. Yeah, it was pretty good. Smooth.
This was like,
it's like
man,
we rehearsed this like the 15th time in a row.
yeah, and yet you think I would be better at it than I am, but I feel like that one actually worked.
We pulled it off.
Pulled
1
it
out
off.
of 15. Woohoo!
So I have my 8x8 canvas all ready to go. It's got a ground on it in a blue-green, and that way as I brush loosely, I don't have white canvas just popping through where I don't want it. Lets me get a little control and helps me decide what kind of painting I want to have. I have my water and my peel palette out. On this, I have Naples yellow, cad yellow medium hue, vermilion, magenta, ultramarine blue, phthalo green, primary blue, burnt sienna, Mars black, and titanium white. If you have different colors in that, if you go to the webpage, it'll tell you exchanges that'll work really well for this project. So if you're exchanging paints, you don't end up with one of those colors that somehow throws your whole painting off in a way that you weren't prepared for. All right. So the wave. Those of you that watch the value video saw some stuff on perspective and how waves are constructed and how we represent those within a canvas. So that was really fun. I'm ready to get on in here and start getting this dark, beautiful background in. This is sort of our darkest value in the piece, which makes this wonderfully focal. And what's great about this is it's something the water actually does, especially in cold Pacific waters. So it's really nice to see that. I'm going to take my ultramarine, the blue, and a little of my phthalo green, just a bit, and mix them together. And it's going to give me a nice dark color. Can you see how gorgeous and dark that is?
Yeah.
And I'm going to just brush this loosely back here, as one might. Just putting that color on. I've got my number 8 Cambridge here. And if you didn't know, there's a giveaway that started today that you can check out on the Acrylic April Facebook page. Our moderators might have the link to it that they can share with you.
I will
And
ask them because I did
Silver
not know.
Brush is honoring all you brave artists with a giveaway.
Ooh.
Ooh, and you know me, I like a art supply giveaway.
Mm.
Really about it. I'm bringing my dark blue down below my wave a bit just because I really want to be able to layer my seafoam.
Yeah.
My seafoam. Do you see foam? I see foam.
It must be layered.
It must be layered. It really must, though.
Like a parfait
Like a parfait.
or an ogre.
Well, ogres have a lot of layers. That's an important art thing. If you come by and you're like, she's talking about ogres. Ogres relate to painting. If you don't know that, you should stay and find out why.
There are some, some.
Just real quick, I'm dipping my brush, getting a little more paint. Just letting you know.
They're like, giveaway where?
So if you, it's on the Acrylic April Facebook page, and I also included a link in the group. And then I'll probably add it to the community tab and put it a few more places so that you can easily find it. And I'm sure our moderators will drop a link to you guys in the chat. Because you don't know this about me unless you've watched for a very long time, but I used to be really into contesting. And I was like one of those people who like read Helen Hadsel's book and was like always saying things like, you got to be in it to win it. So I believe in a good contest giveaway. I like it. I've won a lot of stuff. I think it's a lot of fun. Okay. So I have this nice dark value background going here. Now there's a couple little lighter values, if you'll notice, that are happening back there. So I'm going to pull just a smidge of white. Can you see this? And reflect that into the water. Just the places that I'm seeing those reflections. But that will help us also get the sense that this is not perfectly like stable, still water. I say it a lot, but water is like a fluid mirror. It's a moving, shifting mirror. And when it's not moving and shifting, it's an actually pretty perfect little mirror. I'm going to put a little bit back here. You can see it gets a little bit less as it goes off into the distance. And so that's what that's about, is just trying to get those darker little areas and those lighter little areas together back into this. Building that up, because I just want it to be rich in color, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the other reason I come back with this again is just to make sure that I don't have patches. I don't want to make like wave camo. I want to make it random and feel natural for the natural world that it is present in. All right. Nice, lovely background that's happening. Pretty happy with that. Make sure that you're keeping your stuff fairly level if you need to. And the reason for that is that if you start going to the diagonal on your water, it'll stop looking like water at all. Making sure that those are aquatic looking. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So down into this. In this part of the wave, this is fabulous because there's a lot more green. And there's even some crazy browns and some interesting colors. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to be kind of wild to you. I'm going to take a little yellow and a little red, and I'm going to make a very bright orange. And I'm going to take just a smidge of my burnt sienna into that orange. Okay, a little more red into it. And this is because in the wave, we're going to want a little more red to warm it up with a little bit of that sort of brown color that's slightly greened, like in little peaks, because that's where the water's churning. And there's a few places where that's really beautifully there. So I'm going to take a little of my phthalo green and add some of that brown to it. Can you see how I'm doing right there? And I'll come right here and catch a little bit of that part of the water where it's churned. Because some of this is very much in that kind of green-brown range. A little more green. And that'll help us like see the churned part of the water. We've got lots of white to add up to here, but having that little browned area will really kind of give us an edge. Now I'm going to take a little of my phthalo green and my primary blue and mix those together, and I might grab just some of that as well. It changes a little bit with that mix, you'll notice. And that becomes a little bit better as we move it right into here. I'm weaving that in, and I'm kind of really trying to talk about this front area. A little bit of that into this mix. It's a nice start, isn't it? I do enjoy it.
It really is.
So just building up those little value sets. And there's still a little more to even do in there. Like I can come in with a little bit of yellow, right? And see how it's brightening that little green space? And look, I can come right up here. And really get it. And then just tip that up at the top. So it sort of even implies that there's maybe a smidge of light coming through that little space of wave. That. Very fun stuff for me. A little bit there. One of the things I really like is to catch the shadow under the wave. And to catch the shadow under the wave, I'm going to take a little bit of my magenta and my ultramarine. Now, this is interesting because this is almost, you know, that weird sort of color in the world. But by doing this, it's going to really help it sort of stand out. My brush is a little bit wet. for the paint. So I have to come and wipe it off. Pay attention to that because your golden heavy body paint or your Holbein paint will need more water, and then your economy paints will need less. So it's important to pay attention to that. So this is my shadow coming underneath the wave. And why am I painting it now, you might wonder? Well, that's so that I can really layer the foam over it. Can't layer the foam if it's not already here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's put some out here. So we just want to cast a little shadow. And there might be a little of it right back here that we could talk about. Fun stuff. A little right there. Just layer right over, right? Like, oh, no, shading that up. So this is what we're doing. We're just building these little elements up. Now, a lot of this is my primary blue and my green a little more to the green. All right, let's get a little of our white on here so we can get the right reflection value. So, in front of the wave, we have quite a lot of this reflection. Even before we really even talk to our foam and stuff. Just reflecting right here. So see how we're going back and forth? Reflecting that. You can get back into your main color pretty easily. You definitely want it to run more to the green because this part of the process is definitely more to the green. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Come forward with some of that color right here from the right, brushing over. Now you might notice that it's much deeper. And so one of the things that I can do is I can take my ultramarine blue and my primary blue and come here and talk about that depth. And that should pull out the front of that little wave space even a bit. It's going to need to even be deeper than that, but that's a good start. Rinse out very, 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 very much. Very, 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 very much. And let's talk about some of the, sorry guys.
You need some stun sanding?
I don't know. Let me just see if I can get it on there. Just has not been getting fitted lately. I don't know what I've been doing to it, but I have not been doing what I'm supposed to do. All right, so I'm going to take a little of my primary blue and my green together, and I'm going to get a lot of my head yellow. No, I think I have it on now. Okay, and I'm going to really, really, really lighten that color, if you can see that. All right, thank you. And I'm going to brush this on the top. Kind of fun. And then the other place that we're going to get this really bright color, right, that we have here, you can get some white into it, is right here, coming along the sea foam at the top of this wave. We'll have some of this. As it comes down, of course, it's going to get a lot greener and darker, so I'll go right into my green and blue. Pull that in. See how that's just pulling in? You can even come off the back of this wave with that slightly darker value so that the lighter value kind of pops. Painting the colors I like. Almost getting there. We can take some of those fun colors in there. Another fun one you can do is you can take a little of your Naples and look at that amazing ocean wave color. I can bring that right up here to the top of what I've got going on. Just into this little crescent where the sunlight is maybe shining through. I'll just pull this down a bit.
Ooh.
Pull that down.
Make little wavy action stuff.
Well, and also kind of get it ready for for a little more of the blending is I'm going to come down. I'm going to get my green and my blue, but again, a lot more to the green, and I can even add some yellow into that. Put some up here. It's a brighter green, but it's not quite as light as the other ones. There we go. Just at the top of this little waveform. Even a little bit of that beautiful green right there. I feel like you can pop a bit here and there. Now I'm going to not rinse my brush out. I'm going to just wipe it off. And I'm going to take a little of this green and I'm going to mix a smidge of the brown into it. Just a smidge. You know, if I have to get the yellow back in there to make sure it stays that aquatic color, I'm going to bring it down into here. I need to darken it for the base of the wave. We want to darken. Remember we were talking about that when we were shading our little wave. We want to make sure that we have some dark color where it's warranted in our water. And even though I know I'm going to come over here with seafoam, having that dark base, it's super important. And see how we're blending this out and it's feeling like that churned water. I'll wipe my brush out much as I can. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get a little bit of my green really into that Naples yellow. Get something quite light going, even if I've got to add some white to it. I want to just make sure I'm strongly speaking to this little area right here. I can always come in, pop a little bit there if I want to, oh no, a little bit more. And a couple places here along the front where the foam is going to be. Maybe right here, not the whole top, but some of the top. And you can imply a little bit under the little foam bit that's coming down. So now we've got a little bit of our wave happening. So our foam, right?
Mm-hmm.
What can we do on our foam? Well, I think the smart thing to do on our foam is to make a purple with the ultramarine and the magenta. It should be more to the blue, right? More to the blue. And when I have that, the deep part of my foam is going to start with that. Right? Because the foam, sea foam, as it's crashing over a wave, has quite a lot of shading on its own. Even as it's coming up a wave, a lot of your foam won't be just a bright white. You've got to start here. And you'll notice that I'm making sure that I have the shape that I'm seeing above the wave. I'm not going to try to do all the splash up yet because I'm going to use some splatter techniques for that. But I will be expressive with my brush strokes. You can see I'm just using my little brush. Maybe talk about what's happening. And then this comes down. Just making sure that we've got a little of that peeking out here and there. Already you're starting to see kind of that little wave shape that's happening. I'm going to wipe off. I'm going to get a lot more white into this, if you will. And I'm going to make sure that I've got on the corner of my brush, I'm going to very lightly come in and look at these little foam shapes, right? Kind of paint them. This is a very light pressure. And what do we talk about? The perpendicular surface of the wave. The foam will stretch out. We will see it more in a direct perspective. And then as the wave curls and comes towards us, those shapes will begin to narrow and elongate.
You talked about that in the artwork videos.
I did, because I was like,
I remember, like it was
ew.
only yesterday.
I'm just pulling this across here, just talking about the little sea foam.
Clearly, we weren't the kids that did the homework the morning that it was due.
That was not at all my high school experience. I never did that. I would never encourage it.
I'm not encouraging. I'm just recounting. I think is more.
So it's interesting, like some of the foam under the wave is a little more in shadow. I don't know if you can see that. So even though the light's coming through the wave, the foam itself won't be as bright as, say, the foam when we talk about it like down here. And then the front of this wave's foam, I'm going to come way more into my blue. See how blue that is? It's that cool. It's that dark. I might even get a little of my phthalo into it because it's so right here. And then just at the front of this wave's foam, where I've got the little shadow started, I'm going to come along the front of that wave. And I'm going to just paint in my little foam. I'm wiggling my brush back and forth. I'm on the corner. And again, I'm just putting in some of these darker values. And come along here and talk about the top of this little bit, as you do. As you might. You can always even brush a little bit forward where the wave is curled. If you got lighter, you can just add it there. So work that through because I'm not quite ready yet for the completely light foam. I'm just doing some very narrow in, a little more in shadow foam bits. There's a bit of a little fellow here I got to talk about that I will work out in just a second that's curling up. Look at that. Are you starting to see the ocean yet?
Can you see the ocean through the waves?
Can you see it yet?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, you can always ask me a question.
Why did you use purple in the back instead of green? And the tops
In the
of the waves?
foam?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, because that is a really one on the color wheel. If we're talking about a harmonious colorscape, if I'm running this group, these are all the ranges that I can run. And notice here, these are my deepest values. So if I lean into this space, I can create cool shadows.
Oh.
That are still harmonious with this. And then honestly, even the brown in here, that's my complement, isn't it? But in the muted complements, these are in the shaded complements. So that way I'm keeping, and I'm not going to really do any discords because I'm not painting like an extremely stormy sea. I'm not trying to get any of that represented, so I'm not going to do that. I'm adding a little magenta to again deepen this because I really want this to. And if I need to, if it's not giving it to me, I'll go right into my black value if I have to for right under the front of the foam. Because it's going to cast a strong shadow. And even in a couple of these places, I'm like, we could deepen up that green. So if I take my green and I've got my burnt in there, burnt sienna, and I can even add a little of my phthalo blue. See, I'm really deepening it. Let's make sure that these spaces are as dark as they need to be. Like right up here at the front of that wave, that should be quite dark. At the base, that should be quite dark. And you can see even a little of that burnt sienna comes out of my brush. This is the story we are trying to tell. We'll lean into those little moments. Because those shadows, those shapes, they give form to our water. So we've got all that basic fun in. You know, you can come in if you're like, oh, I really need a pop of, like, say, fun green, like, you know, here somewhere where you want to put some of these brighter greens in. You can do that. Even though I know I'm going to have a lot of wave over that, I'll probably hit that even in there. So it's not that you can't hit any of that. It's just you might do it in a different way. And there, you can see every time you pop it, it pops. Now, once I have sort of that cooled foam sort of worked out, what I can do next is I can take some of my white and, interestingly enough, just a smidge of my yellow, right? It's not white white. In the places where my seafoam might be a little bit more in light, look what I can do. That's lighter seafoam, isn't it? Because the sunlight's on it. No, I'm just getting a little out there. The front of this might have some more light. And this is the other way that you can kind of create a little depth and dimension. I'm going to come right up the top of this. This brighter, little bit of yellow. Even hit this a little bit heavier over here. So just a little bit brighter on my little seafoam there. It's okay if that's a little bit darker, you know, and this could be a little bit lighter because some of this is more directly in sunlight, right?
Yeah.
It's okay if it is. Get a little more of my white. Front of this little seafoam area definitely has some more highlights to it, doesn't it? So now that I've got my cool value foam, when I can put my little brighter highlight foam on it, it's a little easier for us to see some of those little shapes that might be happening and the shadows around the foam. So we're just playing with those values and those colors. Yay! Working that out. I'm liking that today. Nice little loose wave. So right here, if you look at the reference right here, there's a little light area. So we're going to find that. And if you did your value study, you kind of got a sense of where these were at already. Maybe a bit. You can always, if you feel like, oh no, I got to push some of that seafoam back, you can always get some of your blue and look, come back here and push some of it back. Can't you? I just grab my ultramarine blue and I'm exaggerating that little space. Maybe here it's a little lighter than the purple, but still exaggerated. Right there is super fun. I like that little area. I'm having fun with that.
I'm so digging the waves.
I really, honestly, dude, I could do a whole month of
dude, tell me about the waves, dude.
Dude, I'm going to get my Naples yellow because it's just right here.
Where'd you come from, dude?
Dude, I came from totally San Diego and I have feelings about this.
Okay, sorry.
So, anyhow.
Our marriage was showing, sorry.
It's okay. We teach art. Back to teaching art. Can you see how I'm just on the corner of my brush and I'm just using those little wispy bristles? I'm going to be at the top of this part of the foam because that's the part of the light that might hit it. And then, you know, maybe we get a nice bit coming here. We got to have some that's crashing down our wave. Gotta have it crashing down, man. Now let's really hit this. This is a nice hard side of a lot whiter. And then this is so interesting because this has a pretty deep shadow if you look at it on the seafoam. just because where it is in relationship to the sunlight. So hitting the top of this is really what I got to do. And then if I need to, I'll come back with the, that ultramarine blue in there, and sure it's lighter, but we just have to make sure that it's there. And then on this one, you can get right into a very
Peggy.
cool one.
Peggy would like me to pass along, and
Hi,
I have
Peggy.
to agree that thank you, Cinnamon, for teaching us to see color so differently.
I am so glad.
It's true. I mean, like, I have totally seen color differently now.
Oh, I'm liking this. This is a bit happy. This is a bit wonderful. I think that's good. Now, the fun thing I'm going to show you to do, I'm going to get some fresh water. Isn't completely, totally and utterly necessary. First, I'm going to get some just pure white. And believe it or not, even that toned white, look at this, with the yellow, can be lifted with the pure titanium white. Isn't that crazy how that's true?
Man, I'm going to turn my camera down. It's now
too hot for it.
Yeah. And like
bring some of that down.
I mean, like it's so on the border of like I can turn it down, but everything gets dark.
Camera can't handle it, man.
Well, I mean, like it is such a reflective color.
It is like it's white.
It's super. It's like it's so it. Yeah, that's about right there. It's a super white.
Because we're just trying to talk about this little crash, this little joy of wave that's happening. I'm going to come and take a little bit of my blue and my ultramarine and some of my green. Just make sure that this has got a little blend on it. I don't want it to be that. And I, take this color around some places wherever you need to in your ocean. I always like to make sure that there's a dispersion of a color, if that makes sense.
It does.
And we're just talking about these values anyways. It's kind of fun. When you get that all where you're thinking you want it to be. And I'm thinking, oh, I love it.
It is looking pretty sharp.
So these are crazy, like, little shapes, right? They're crazy, difficult, hard to manage little shapes.
Yep.
So I've got this little bristly brush. I'm going to do a couple of interesting things.
I got distracted, just so
it's
you know.
It's okay. I can come in. One, I'm going to show you that you can pounce with any brush.
Nope.
So one technique I can do is I can come in if I have a very stiff brush and tap up and down to randomize some of my lines. That's important to know. So that's a good way to maybe soften hard edges and start to talk about, look there, about those little bits of more raspy little seafoam. One way. And we can just say, oh, okay, so there's it's a little foamy, right? Like, oh, this comes down there, it has here. But the other thing that I can do, and I'm really going to like, and it's really going to make the piece happen, is I'm going to take some water in this brush, and I'm going to thin it quite a lot. Thinner than I would normally want to paint it. Here I am thinning it. And I'm trying to get it to about a fluid consistency. Not like water, thicker than water. About like a serum or an oil thickness. Okay? Now, here's my trick. You get a piece of scratch paper. John, can we look up here above my canvas?
Yes. Hold on, let me go up here with the little camera.
So, whenever you're splattering, and I have a whole video about this, about how to splatter stars. And all the different ways that you can do that. And if you have my splattering tool, you've had a lot of training with that. But what you want to do is you want to get a scratch piece of paper and you want to flick your brush first and just make sure the splatter is how you want it to be. Because if you have it mixed really wrong, if it's too wet, it's going to give you weird strings. And if it's too gloppy, it's going to give you weird glops. So go ahead and test splatter before you go to your canvas. Wait, sorry. Yeah.
I have to zoom down there with the other camera.
I'll let you get zoomed in so they can really see it.
Oh, so you're going to go from that side?
Yeah, I'm going to be right here. Am I out of the way?
Yeah, you're fine. I was just going to try to go the other way. You're good at that angle. Sometimes you switch back and forth, so I never know where you're...
So this is my big part of the way where I really want to talk about that, right? So I've got a little bit of that splatter coming up, don't I? This is an area where I could put some, and I'll just be kind of light with it. See right there. Talk about it. Come on the front of your mist real close. So test your control, because a lot of people get frustrated when they splatter. But really what it was is they got into the splatter super quick because it's fun, it looks exciting, and they didn't want to do the testies. You got to do the test. Test your splatter. And remember, less is more. Like look how I'm barely grabbing. Right? I'm not pulling back hard. I'm being gentle. I'm not going not that I don't sometimes, because I do. But that would be less effective here. And I want to be able to see where my splatter is going and how it's impacting my piece. So once I have that, I've got that beginning of, waves and stuff, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. I can go ahead and give that a signature. Because I did it. It's always interesting to figure out how to sign like wave painting, because you're like, man, what colors am I going to use that aren't going to like stand out and be problematic? So I guess I'm going to just go right into white and see if pure white, and maybe if I tip it with a little yellow, but if that will pop here, we'll see how it does. Because I don't want to lose my whole painting to the signature. It bugs me if I do. So just trying to see if I can see it. If I can't see it, then I might come in and get a color that's darker or lighter, but again, I don't want to lose my painting to a signature. The height of ego. And I say this as artists are kind of naturally have a little ego going on. It's still a lot.
That's so good. I love that.
Still a lot.
All
right.
Yeah, this is amazing.
All right, let me turn around.
All right.
Boom. Let's look at it. Oh, there we go. So when you learn this set of skills, when you start to understand these principles about waves and water, what happens is that you can do them then by scale. They're almost an abstract in their nature. So this is one of those skills that you could go big with. You could enlarge. Many of you are asking for some bonus events throughout the year, so we're all in shape for Acrylic April next year, which we'll do, and maybe we'll look at waves a little bit on one of those, because that was a lot of fun, and I think it'd be fun to do different types of waves and water in different areas, because it's so different depending on where it is. It's so transformative and amazing.
Now, before we go, I know, just so I can answer a couple questions that come up in chat.
Oh, sure.
If you check in the link in the description down below, you'll find information about Hot Springs, Arkansas, the next Pinner events, and all the cool Sherpa.
In the description below?
Oh, isn't there like? Well, no, maybe not. There's on our website.
On our website.
On our website.
If you go to our website under the events tab.
And there's a link to our website in the description below.
And there's a link to our website in the description below.
There we go.
Which will take you to this video page that has the printouts, the extra traceables, the value video where we talk about wave perspective.
There we
has all that extra stuff. And then as you're visiting there, you'll notice there's a video, a calendar, traceable, and event tab. Hit the event tab, and it'll tell you about where we're going to be if you want to meet up and paint with us.
See, that's why she's a Sherpa. She can get us there.
In a roundabout way. As long as you don't mind taking that scenic route.
Well, that's the best way.
That's my way. Off the highway. A lot of people are like, it's my way or the highway. I'm like, I don't want to be on the highway. Highway's super boring.
We got an RV just so we don't have to do that.
Well, I think we were supposed to stay on the highway with the RV. That's like where a lot of our trip went weird.
Our marriage is showing.
On the RV. I mean, on the highway with your RV. Do not off-road with it. It's not a good idea. All right.
Okay.
I hope you're going to be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is actually the first image that I picked like 11 months ago when this idea started to formulate as like a thing I would actually do. It took me 11 months to like talk myself into it. As an idea I would actually do. So tomorrow I'm pretty excited to do this one because it was the first one that spoke to me. We're going to show that to you at the end of the video. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I'm going to see you at the easel really soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And happy anniversary, Staline.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Bye-bye.
Bye.